When was the last time you said to yourself or someone else, I can't believe I forgot? Well, it probably happens more times than we care to admit. Welcome to the 2020 New Testament Challenge. Today we're in Matthew chapter 15. Beginning in verse 29, the disciples were confronted with a problem. Jesus had looked at them and said, give all these people something to eat. There were 4,000 men there. They looked at each other and they asked Jesus, where are we going to get enough food to feed all these people? Well, just the day before, in chapter 15, they had seen Jesus feed 5,000 men, not counting women and children. And now they're asking the exact same question. It's as though they forgot the miracle power of God. We do the exact same thing sometimes. We forget how God has answered our prayers. We forget how God has worked in our past. We don't remember. In chapter 15 of the book of Exodus in the Old Testament, the Israelites faced something very, very similar. God had just performed a miracle for them. The Egyptians were chasing them, and they were at the edge of the Red Sea. God parted the Red Sea. The nation walked across on dry ground, and then they saw their enemies wiped out in a moment as the water came crashing down and they all drowned. God had saved them. When God does a miracle like that, you would think it would last in their memory a long time. But in verse 22 of Exodus 15, it says 3 days later, they started to grumble and complain, where are we going to get enough water? We don't have enough water. How's God going to provide for us? It only took 3 days for them to forget that God can do miracles, that God can provide for them. How can we remember the things that God has done for us so that we can have faith? I'd like to suggest 3 things. Number 1, we can write it down. If we want to remember what God has done in the past, we need to write it down so that we can reread it and then remember if God did it before, He can do it again. But then we need to thank Him. Thank Him over and over. Rehearse what He has done in our past and thank Him again for His provision and how He has answered prayer. And then we need to relate it to someone else. We need to share it. We need to tell somebody else. When we do those 3 things, write it down, thank the Lord, and then share with someone else, it's going to help us remember. And we need to remember because that will build up our faith. If you find these times together encouraging, why not hit the like button or leave a comment, share it with someone else. God wants to build up our faith. And so we need to remember what He's done in the past, because if He did it before, He can do it again. Thank you again for joining the 2020 New Testament Challenge.